welcome along to a special edition of the Huddle Breakdown, where we dig deep into the Celtic by Numbers universe and specifically the stat packs that Alan Morrison produces after each Celtic game. So the goal of this episode, this is more of a permanent episode, a resource for our subscribers to help you decipher all of the volumes and volumes of information and data that Alan produces after every single game. So, Alan, first, let's start off. Well, I intentionally, as you and I talked before we started recording, I've intentionally kept myself relatively ignorant here to make this as authentic as possible. So this is specific to the Alan Morrison universe, how you collect data, what those metrics are, how you think about them. We'll talk about all the resources and the formatting and that type of thing. But first, let's start with how long you've been doing this, what the timeline's been, the evolution, and kind of what the routine is to give people an idea of what goes into getting this produced on a week to week and really a game to game basis.
Yeah, sure. So it all started probably about maybe even nearly 10 years ago. And actually, where it started was helping my son's football team, the coaching team, and really becoming a part of that coaching team as essentially as the analyst. And I wanted to help the coach and help the coaching team better understand, the player's performance and the team's performance. And so literally started off with one of these clickers that door people use at nightclubs, counting passes. So you'd count our passes and the opposition passes. And the way that the boys had been brought up to play football from the age of 7, 8 years old was, a passing game. And we can get into all the philosophy of all that, and at a later date. I mean, just I have to separate in my head. I have two sort of lenses in which I look at football. I have the lens that I have applied when involved in grassroots football and my own kids' football, which is, it has to be a possession-based passing game for lots of good reasons about development, decision making, and all that good stuff. And then I have my lens that I look at professional football, which is that there is no right answer, and it's about making good decisions, and it's about adjusting your strategy to to cover your weaknesses and exploit the opposition's weaknesses. So I also have these two little bit of conflict going in my head about the way that football is played. But long story short is because the, this was a community club. It wasn't one of these, right? We lost 10 games last season. We're going to kick out half the team. We're going to have trials. We're going to get all these new guys in. It was a case of up by the age of 13, 14, it was really the boys that were deciding who was in and out of the team. The coaches facilitated that, and they did that. And what they found was that the ones that perhaps weren't performing, or because the kids change with age, is they just kind of naturally dropped out anyway, and kind of the peer group sorted themselves out. But because it was quite a mature approach, I would say, and they played good football, and they very slowly, and I do mean slowly, went from like the fourth tier to the top of the first tier over the duration of the club of that team, staying true to those principles. So I wanted to help that process by what data could I collect that would give some information that would help to see, is there, irrespective of the scorers and the league table, was there actually a way of demonstratively showing progress? We started off just by counting passes. That was literally it. Are we outpassing the opposition? If we're outpassing the opposition, that's the bedrock. That's the foundation. Probably having more possession, keeping the ball better. The boys are making more decisions. They're learning more about team play because they're passing to each other and all that. Therefore, they're going to develop. That was the kind of very simple ethos that we built from. And I soon realized that I could collect an awful lot more. And I used to have a dictaphone on my phone, and I would literally commentate on the game as it's progressing. And then I would go home and I would transcribe, take the dictaphone commentary, and I would basically turn it into spreadsheet form, into tallies on columns, number of passes per player, number of shots per player, number of challenges, tackles, and all that sort of thing. It was all very basic. It was probably about maybe 20 data points per player per game, which is quite a lot still. And I did that for a number of years, and then I realised that I could probably do that for Celtic games. And this was before you could get access to FOTMob and StatsBomb and Wisecout, and I mean these companies were probably starting, but they certainly weren't available to the public, and very little data was available to the public. So this was about 20. It was when Ronnie Dyler took over, so 2014, I guess, when I started to, and it was retrospective. So I think I was halfway through Ronnie Dyler's first season that I decided I could do this. But I thought, well, if I do this, it's only going to make sense if I've got history, because you need history to create benchmarks, as we always talk about. And you don't know what good is unless you've got a history of data. So I thought, right, well, I can't just start publicizing this stuff on here's one game's worth of data. It has to be contextual. So I kind of got that from the start. So point being that it was 2 years. Long story short, it was 2 years before I actually created a Twitter account. I think it was 2017, and I started collecting at the beginning of the 14-15 season. Over 2 years, and all I was doing was building up a database. That's all I was doing. I wasn't doing anything else with it. Um, and then as I got more immersed in the online world of on X, of other analysts, or Twitter, sorry, other analysts, I started to learn more about what people were doing and what was possible. And oh, PPTA, what's the hell's that? Oh, that sounds good. I think I could do that. I could crib that. And basically just stealing things from people that had great ideas. The amount of columns in the match database just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and to the point now where I haven't actually changed it for 2 or 3 seasons now, so it probably grew. There was a big iteration after the Ronnie Dyler seasons. After Brendan Rodgers' first season, there was a big jump because I didn't even have an XG model, right? So the first few years there wasn't even an XG model. It was just counting shots, and shots on target, shots off target. That was literally it. And then once I got an XG model, that changed the dynamic. And then once I introduced a lot of advanced metrics like PPDA and things, and then when I introduced packing, that then generated a whole sort of ecosystem of data in addition to what I had. So I got to the stage where when I first started with these sort of 20 columns per player, and then you aggregate it up to the team level, and then you could do team level for the opposition as well. That it was probably taking me. I could do a whole match in like 2 hours. I could transcribe the data in about 2 hours. But now I'm at the stage where it still takes me. If I'm sat here and I'm doing my usual, which is, oh, I'll just have a look on social media, or I'll just get distracted by this email, or I'll just go and have a cup of tea or whatever. It'll take me like 5 hours. If I literally just sit down and I don't think about anything else, I just do it, I can knock it out in about, between sort of 3.5 and 4 hours, a whole game. So the point being, now we've got this database now that's nearly 10 years of data, over 10 years of data from matches. Now it's not all really that highly usable because, as I say, it's evolved as it's gone on. So we don't have packing scores going back 10 years. It only goes back like 6 years, for example, that sort of thing. And so that's kind of the history of it. That's how it's sort of developed. And the question really that probably more in most people's minds is, why do you still bother? Because now you can just go onto SofaScore, you can go onto FOTMob. All this data is out there. I could save my time by subscribing to Wisecout if I took out a small mortgage, or subscribe to Huddle StatsBomb or something like that, and then it saved myself all these hours. But of course, it's not as simple as that. And you and I have had this sort of conversation, and I think you provided me with Wisecout data, and these companies exist to get data out there into the marketplace as quickly as possible. I mean, the FOTMob data is there in real time. So someone's literally capturing this in real time. So that's speed to market over quality, right? It has to be. It has to be. There's no kind of, and I know they do adjust the XG numbers post-match. I don't know if they adjust all the other figures. In fact, I know they don't. So even if when we're watching a UEFA game and they put up number of completed passes after 15 minutes, I always check it with my own and go, nope, that's not even close. But then you might say, well, why does it matter? And this thing we always go on about of, accuracy versus precision. As long as the general trend is right.
We hope you enjoyed this free preview from all of us here at the Huddle Breakdown. We know you have options and we really appreciate you tuning in. To hear the rest of this episode and for much more Huddle Breakdown content, head on over to www.huddlebreakdown.com. We hope you consider subscribing. Thank you.